What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. Here's Sir Rory now. On the outside, decent.
Barnes! He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Sir Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Boxing quickly, finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell, saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Paul Pantella, off for a hat trick.
He's got it. Hat trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day.
Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby. Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. Top shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class.
Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello and welcome along to the latest instalment of the Turfcast podcast. Full-time show with me, Joe Redmond, after, on the surface, an impressive win down at Carrow Road. Burnley get the job done despite going behind after, 63 seconds from an awful set piece from Burnley's perspective. It really, really was poor marking, but we'll get into all the individual moments later in the game. As you can see, I am joined by two very happy Clarets. We've got Andrew and we've got Sam, who's coming back for his Rant King crown after Chris stole it off him last week. How are we doing, boys?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. But there's
Good, mate.
we all know there's only one original, so it's fine.
Oh, here we go, fighting talk. Love it, love it. Hopefully we'll get a rant today.
So,
But obviously we've won, so maybe not. But yeah, keep the comments coming in. Jimmy Hawk says first home loss for them in 23 games. Scott Sutherland says, evening chat, so that last 45 minutes changed the whole complexion of the show. Sam will have to put his rant back in the drawer. Yeah, sorry, Sam, you have to get your crown back next week, mate. Scott goes on to say Trafford saved Al Bacon on a number of occasions. Evening chaps, says Claret Al. A reminder that if you are watching on Facebook, you can support the show with Facebook stars. Shameless plug there from me. Love the picture, Clout in Blue 1882. It gets me every week, that, to be honest. I forget you do that every single week. But he says, evening all evening, mate. Claret Al says, unfairly, those fantastic away fans are on the big hole back home. Was there a recognition from Ash at all? Didn't show it on TV. I presume there was from the away fans, mate. I wasn't there, so I can't comment. I've just realised I need to get rid of that. There we go. Yeah, Sam Rance has collaborated 82. I think, as you said earlier, mate, maybe not. Simon Moretti Maru says, evening, lads, evening, mate. Hope you are on the Morettis having a good time, mate. Kyle Matthews says, well, at the game. Excellent. He says, was at the game. We sung for Barnes as he was stripping off when he came on, and after the game, sadly, he went down the tunnel fairly early. I'm guessing he was somewhat upset. It did show him and Scott Parker chatting after the full-time whistle, actually, a little bit, Kyle, so I'm not really sure what that was about. But good to hear that we did give him the credit he deserves for being a Clarets legend down the years. John Robertson says, can we have a shout-out for Hannibal, please? Lauren was exceptional, but the game swung on the hour when Hannibal upped our tempo and forward progression. I'll just have to give Chris a ring, mate, and see if we're allowed to give Hannibal any credit. Well, no, I do agree, but we'll get into that. I think Loren was when the game changed for me. I love the man, and to see him getting some stick again online is absolutely unbelievable. Simon Woodhouse says, unbelievable fight back. Wow, Sam's on, says Clark. I'll tell me about it, mate. Tell me about it. It's always good to have Sam back. Nathan Rogers, impressive to be so incredibly shite and so impressive in the same 90 minutes. To be fair, the first half was awful, but the second half, especially last half an hour, was decent. And evening, lads, says Russell. Just going back to that point on Ashley Barnes, Kyle says, yeah, he chatted with some BFC staff and players, but didn't join the Norwich players in applauding. The fans went down the tunnel. alone. Yes, I have seen something about that, but I'm not sure exactly what it was. I've seen some Norwich fans whinging about it. But ultimately, I couldn't care less if they're whinging. But let's get into it. Seeing as Sam, we're normally going screen order, but seeing as Sam's making his bi-monthly appearance, we will get him to have his chat first. But Sam, your thoughts on that game, please, mate.
I don't feel like I've been away that long. I think I've only missed 1 week.
No, I think to be fair, you missed 1 week, but then before that it was like 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah,
it's always good to have you back, mate. It's just friendly bats.
Yeah, it's nice to see everybody. Yeah, the game. I mean, it's just. I think it's just that we've just become so used to a typical kind of Scott Parker performance. Like, we are resolute. To say we conceded after 63 odd seconds. We did defend quite well after that. Trafford definitely kept us in the game in that first half because they were absolutely all over us. But then again, we do have this same conversation. There is a little bit more to it, which we'll deep dive into later on. But good teams get results, and that is what we've managed to do. Even a draw in this game, on paper, is a good result. The fact that we've come away with all 3 points after the first half performance is brilliant. I think Parker needs a lot of credit for that because the subs were really, really good. The thing is, I just think that there is, there's an overarching thing with like a Scott Parker style of play that it's not entertaining and it's not pretty, but we are in for those types of performances this season. And we've come up against teams that have sat in the banks of 4 and tried to stifle us, and we've come up against a team that wanted to attack us today, and we managed to reap the benefits from that, because there were holes for us in that second half where we were able to exploit. So all in all, I am really, really pleased with the fact that we've come away with 3 points, because it got to half time and I just thought that's it. Like, in fact, it got in that as soon as that first goal went in, I thought, nah, only because we've seen so many games where we just don't have the attacking intent to get forward and create chances. Yeah. Actually, in fairness, I actually don't think we did that a lot today either. We just took our chances that we did get, which in this division does get you out of it if you have players that can take chances. And I'm not being funny. A wonder strike from Zian Fleming changes the entire complexion of the game. And then obviously Brownhill, again, I'm just going to caveat it with Brownhill doing what Brownhill does, which is in moments where you need him, he's there to give a big moment. I know I saw a lot of people slagging him off at half time, saying he does absolutely nothing. Well, there we go. That's why you keep Josh Brownhill in the team. That's why he's there. So yeah, so pleased with the result in a game where it wasn't pretty, but yeah, absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much said everything I wanted to say there. I think the first half, as happy as I am, and I want to get my whinge out of the way early, as happy as I am, that first half was awful, almost unforgivable. I forgive them now because we turned it round, so obviously it's not unforgivable. But that first half, let's just have, I've not looked at the first half stats yet, by the way. Obviously the stats for the game are on your screen now. That kind of backs up what Sam was saying, as we still didn't really do much. 0.46 XG. Obviously, that Zian Fleming goal wouldn't have had a very high XG at all. I've not looked at the individual chances, but I'm still surprised it's 0.46, considering that, I thought Brownhill's would have been quite higher than that on its own. But again, I've never really fully understood it. I just know it's a very good metric of measuring how good your chances actually are. Possession, dominated, got dominated, should I say, in possession. Obviously, less goal attempts, less on target. And less big chances, same big chances created, actually. So I think Brownhill's will be the big chance. Less corners, which I don't think is a bad thing, considering our corners were absolutely awful. Murphy Brown. That's a first nice comment he said. Let's see how Murphy ends up going today. Let's hope he don't change his picture again. But he says, to be fair, Murphy, give me some credit where it's due. It's hard work sometimes getting an hour-long show out of these games. But anyway, let's have a look at the stats for the first half then, shall we? 0.12 XG to Norwich's 0.47. We were awful in that first half. That's the point I'm trying to make. We were absolutely awful. We couldn't string more than 3 passes together. We were barely getting up the field. Norwich were better than us in every single area of the pitch. We were absolutely awful. And I was obviously, we're in the Turfcast WhatsApp group, and everyone were mourning, and people were saying like it's that horrendous first half, and I couldn't really disagree with everybody. It was absolutely awful, that first half. But credit where it's due. I think Scott Parker, and I know some people won't like this because some people don't like giving Scott Parker credit at all, but Scott Parker needs to have credit for his subs. Yes, it's okay sitting there and saying some of his subs were enforced, and they were, you're right, but he's still got to turn around and look at the right people on the bench and bring the right people on. Me, you and Chris, Sam were in that WhatsApp group whinging when we seen him bringing Loren on, because even though I love Loren, I really think he's one of our better midfielders. I think it was who he was bringing. I can't remember who he brought him off for, but it was bringing Sarmiento. That's right, yeah. Obviously, Sarmiento got the injury. We're all sitting there thinking he's taking our most creative player off as somebody who we all like on Turfcast. I know some of the other podcasts and stuff seem to slag him off a bit more than us do. We do, but we quite like him because he drags us up the pitch. But in terms of creativeness, he's not all there. And I do think sometimes we can lack creativity when Loren's on, but at the same time, with 30, 40 yards up the pitch. But that sub, I felt, turned it around. I know John's already said in the chat that the Hannibal sub did. But again, the Hannibal sub, that again added a little bit of more tempo. So I do think Scott Parker deserves credit today. I know some people won't give him the credit he deserves. I was seeing Scott Parker out tweets at half-time. People were creating these AI images of other managers taking over at the turf and stuff. And I just thought that was just ridiculous. Just at least wait till full-time. And even then at full-time, I still think it would have been a bit much. But yeah, first half, dreadful. Second half, better. Still work to be done in that second half. Because like you said, if it weren't for that absolute thunder bastard from Fleming, then that changes the entire complexity of the game. And I'm not sure that we get back into it. But yeah, Parker has relied on quality a lot in his time so far here, and I think he relied on it a little bit today. But I don't necessarily mind that if we do have the better players. If you want to set up in a way for the individual quality to get you over the line, I don't really mind that. And I've said it before, as bad as that first half was, I'm not overly fussed if the game isn't entertaining, as long as we get the win. But I want us to play well, if that makes sense. I'm not bothered if we're entertaining or not, but I do want us to play well. And that first half, we weren't good at all. But second half, absolutely, I'm going to say fantastic, but that's a bit much. A lot better, and good to see the turnaround. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Andrew, your thoughts on the match, please, mate.
Yeah, you've both pretty much summed it up well. Like, first half was just horrific. I think it was just like a carry on from the Derby match, really, weren't it? And then second half, like you say, all right, the Laurent, the Laurent substitution was enforced, but at the same time, it did change the game for us. Like, I agree with John that bringing Hannibal on definitely did, but Laurent, whenever he's on the pitch, like you said, he brings us so much higher up the pitch, and he looks like he wants to attack. Whereas when he's not on the pitch, there's no one else who does look like they want to attack, and he'll get the ball and he'll drive forward like what we used to see Bayer do. And there's no one else in our squad who I can see who actually does that. And what on the pitch, he'd nearly, had a chance himself. So yeah, it still a lot of work to do. The first half, absolute crap, but second half, so much better. And like I say, I think we would deserved to at least get a draw, but without Fleming's screamer, we don't get back into that game. For me.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I feel like a draw is probably a fair result on the balance of play. But when you look at the chance creation and the XG and all that, I think Norwich can feel a little bit harshly done to when it comes to that game, because I feel like they were so much better than us in the first half, and we were probably just about the better side in the second half, if that makes sense. Andrew, I'll stick with you. Thoughts on, obviously we got 1-0 down after what, Rich? 63 seconds. It was god awful defending, which is I feel like I need to caveat that by saying, which is strange to say for Burnley this season, but I've said that 2 out of the last 3 games now. We were poor. We conceded a poor goal against Middlesbrough as well. And I did have the screenshots and stuff for Middlesbrough. I don't have it today. Obviously, it's quick turnaround and that. But just cast your mind back to the goal. Obviously, came from a corner. I can't remember the name of the goal scorer off the top of my head, but he's there waiting, and I think he's with Cullen and I can't remember who it might be. He's with Cullen and another player. I'm not sure he's meant to be marking him. One simple run though, and he's completely unmarked, and it's a free header, isn't it? And then obviously we're 1-0 down really, really early. So poor defending from Burnley, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think his man were meant to be J-Rod in that. Like, obviously, you know how much I love him, but I think he were meant to be marking him. And yeah, it's one of them where, yeah, we're a poor goal to concede, and it's so early in the game. And like Sam said, at that point, you don't have the confidence to feel like we're going to pull this back because we don't seem to have that attacking intent. And they've scored like literally 2 minutes in the pit, 2 minutes into the game, and you just didn't feel like they were going to get back into it. But having said that, that's still only the 8th goal we've conceded this season. Like, we've still got a really strong defence. And I think, like, after that goal, our defence were so much better. It was just, we didn't seem to wake up for the start of the match.
Yeah.
But I think after that, like, they did seem to get into it a bit more.
Yeah, fair enough. Claret Al says, Andrew, can we have a whip round to sort your internet out? It's okay blaming the weather, but it's not too bad at the moment.
You want to do that, Al, you do it.
Even your biggest fan, Murphy Brown, says Andrew's internet crap me up. When you first started, it's not so bad now, to be fair, but when you first started talking, it's like your face didn't move, but we could hear your voice. And then at one point,
That's just my face.
Up. Yeah, fair enough. Your face is obviously a few seconds behind your brain. Sam, we'll come to you on that defending then. It does feel harsh criticising Burnley, doesn't it, for defending? But that's 2 goals now in 3 games where we've scored conceded a poor goal.
Yeah, but like you say, I mean, this is still a Burnley side that conceded how many goals? 7 before today in 20 championship runs.
Now, yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, there's no better defence than Burnley. We were eventually going to ship goals. We weren't going to go the entire season keeping clean sheets. They're also an excellent attacking outfit. You know, they've turned some teams over this season, and we limited them to, you know, little to no chances, really. I mean, that first half, they were all over us. They were having chances, but they weren't like clear-cut chances. The goal was poor, but it can happen to any team. I mean, but in saying that, what worries me is even coming up, because obviously I wasn't, you know, we haven't had a show actually, have we, from the Derby game?
No, you can talk about the Derby if you want, mate, because obviously it was midweek, weren't it? So we didn't get a chance to do one.
So for me, it's like these types of games against teams in the top half, like we've looked really, really, really good. You know, like Leeds away performance, it was a good away performance. You know, same goes for today. Like, you know, obviously the result makes a huge difference. If we come away losing that game, it's a very, very different conversation, but it's a woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like, I mean, you know, we have got the 3 points, and you know, Parker deserves a lot of credit for that. So you have to give him the benefit of the doubt with stuff like that. But it isn't games like the Norwich game or the Leeds game that worry me. It's the games against the bottom teams, the teams that literally come to shut up shop. I mean, that game on Tuesday night, it was the most awful game of football I have ever watched us play. Our best chance was a shot from like the most acute angle ever from Sarmiento. And honestly, it was just so pointless, so boring. But they're the games to worry about. This game today and this win today is a good win. And what it does is it puts us back into that conversation of like, you're on 41 points level with Leeds, who managed to scrape a point against Preston the other day. Like, it puts us back in that conversation of, well, or at least it does to me, because people keep talking about this championship season like, oh, it's Leeds and Sheffield United. So far for me, it's Sheffield United or nobody else, because Sheffield United...
I agree. I've got stick recently for saying I think Sheffield United will win the league, but from what I've seen so far, Sheffield United are a much better team.
They're easily the most impressive team in the division so far. They're winning the most games. They're winning the most points. They're not dropping points from winning positions. They're not dropping points from conceding first. They are just playing really solid, good football. And fair play to Sheffield United, because they look like a really, really good outfit, and it'll be a tough game when we play them again.
It will.
But in saying that, there's this weird narrative about us not being like a contender in this division. We're now level on points with Leeds, so we're like effectively joint second. We're just behind in goal difference by like what, a goal, 2 goals. The issue for me is
we're a point behind Leeds.
Oh, we're a point behind. Sorry,
yeah,
we're a point behind. But what I mean is, like, we're not a million miles away from them, and we're 4 points behind Sheffield United. Like this narrative that we are, you know, not even slightly in contention in this division. I mean, you know, today has given me a lot more confidence in going behind in a game, and there's also a huge. There's also a huge push on like how today's game went, and you know, okay, it's brilliant, but you go back to so many more results that haven't gone our way. Oxford, for example, QPR, play, you know, the games against, you know, Blackburn and Preston, like these games where we should have picked up more points. We could be in a much healthier position should we have been on the right side of games like that. My issue is, it's games against teams that are lower down in the division. Like that's my issue. But it's still a great win, and you know, I am looking forward to seeing how this team keeps progressing, because week upon week it is slowly getting better and better, and we're able to see like players like Fleming hopefully can start to come into his own now. You know, coming off of a confident. I mean, it's a great goal, so hopefully that gives him some confidence. Back four's looking good. Humphreys is looking really good as well. You know, backing up what Andrew said about Laurent, like I just think he just solidifies us in midfield. It's not necessarily like him being able to drive us up the pitch. It's him being able to win the ball and nobody can get it off him. Like, and he also doesn't play risky football. He just gets the ball left and right and lets the creative players do the work. What he does for that team is he wins the ball in a good area and gives it to creative players. And that's why he's so good in that position, because he's not bothered about the spotlight or being the main player. He's just like, I'll get the ball, I'll play it to you lot, and if the ball comes back, I'll stop it getting past me again. So that's why, I am really pleased. Like, it sounds like I'm not pleased. It's just, you know, it's now, okay, we've had a great game against Norwich, but it's now, look further down the table. Can we beat these other teams now? Can we pick up points against teams that just sit in banks of 4?
Yeah, that is, I completely agree. That is a problem. It's been the undoing all season. Could you imagine if we'd have just won, if we'd have beat 3 of these teams that we've drawn 0-0 against, 3 of these teams that have done a low block against us? It's happened to us so many times. Obviously, like you mentioned there, Preston did it, Blackburn did it as well. Obviously, they're in 5th now, so that result doesn't look as bad as it did 6 games ago when they were pretty much looking like they were having the usual slide down the league table. But obviously Preston, as I've said, Derby, Oxford away, QPR, even the Plymouth and Portsmouth games, ultimately, we got over the line in them, but we did struggle. But could you imagine if we'd have just turned even just 2 of them over the line, how much better that league table would look? People wouldn't be complaining as much. But that is why people aren't really giving us the credit we deserve, because we can't beat these teams. Like, look at the way Leeds are at home. Yes, Leeds are a little bit poor away from home, so that's the flip side of this argument. But look how good Leeds are at home and what they did to Plymouth. I don't think Plymouth even had a single shot when they played them. Derby, they absolutely battered Derby as well. They're doing to teams at home what we used to do to teams at home under Vincent Kompany. I'm not saying they're playing in the same style. I just mean in terms of pure dominance. But to caveat that point, if you look at the away form table, obviously Burnley are the best away league team in the Championship at the minute. 6 wins. Nobody else has won 6 games away from home in the Championship so far this season. We've only lost the 2 games, obviously, on the road as well. So we do have the best. And look, Leeds all the way down in 8th. That's why they're obviously on top and we're not top, because when you put the home form table in it, we're all the way down in 6th. We've had too many draws as well, obviously. Unbeaten at home, but still too many draws. So, yeah, I completely agree with the point. It's the reason why we're not in contention with a lot of these fans and pundits is because we're so bad. Not so bad, that's harsh to say we're unbeaten, but we can't beat these teams that come in the low block, which is annoying because we have seen recently, up until the Derby game, I say we've seen recently, we saw it in one game, let's be fair, against Coventry. We actually beat the team who came to do the low block, and then when we went 1-0 up and they started playing football, it was bizarre because they ended up looking really good. But they just came for the low block with Coventry. We managed to get that one over the line. But interestingly enough, I did predict Burnley to win this game. I said 1-0 to be fair, not 2-1. But that because I knew that Norwich would come at us. I knew that they would try and play against us. And I think the fixtures that we've got coming up, which we'll look into in more detail later in the show, a lot of them are going to be teams that are opening up against it. Even Watford, I think, they've had a win today as well. Last time I checked, I think it finished 2-1. So they're in 7th now, so they're going to come at us. So I think some of these games will play into our hands yet. Finish Watford 2, West Brom 1. Even Sheffield United away. We've got Leeds soon as well. Blackburn. We've got some tough games, admittedly, but I think some of them aren't going to be in sort of games that we're struggling. Yes, we might lose 1 or 2 maybe, but I don't think there's going to be any 0-0s in there, put it that way. Andrew, what do you think is the difference then between Burnley's home form and Burnley's away form? Do you think it's simply because when we go away from home, the majority of teams are opening up against us and trying to attack us?
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's a mix of that. I think the atmosphere has an impact, but that's a whole different conversation. I just think, it's weird because our away form's much better than our home form, despite the fact that we've lost the 2 games we've lost this season have both been away. But with a lot of the games that we've had at home have been like in close, like quarters to each other. So we've had like 3 games at home in a row, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, like they have been close together. Whereas the away games seem to be Saturday, then the next Saturday. You know what I mean? Like they seem a bit more spread out. So I'm going to blame time on this one, where we've got a little bit more time.
So we've had weather and time. We've had weather and time for Andrew's excuses so far this season.
But yeah, I just think it's just, I don't know. I think the atmosphere definitely has an impact. I think not 100%. But yeah, I think teams coming at us definitely do as well. Like you say, Coventry, we got all 3 points against them because once we broke past them and they started to come at us. Yeah.
Yep, fair enough. I do want to talk about the subs, and that brings me nicely onto a comment here from Hannibal Medri Fans TV. Obviously, he's got the I presume it's the same guy with the page on Facebook. There's a Facebook page called the Hannibal Medri Fans Club, and now this guy is commenting on you. Quite funny actually last week because Chris were ripping into Hannibal, and then this guy commented, and then Chris just lost his head. Like, I can't believe we've got Fans Club commenting as well. But he says. I did not mean to say that, by the way. That's the wrong comment I put up. Silly me. There we go. Shouldn't Hannibal start against Watford? Is the question he made. Now, I don't necessarily want to answer that question because ultimately I think you'll be disappointed with it. I still think just because he does so well when he comes on in these sort of games. But I do want to talk about the subs because we had Josh Loren come on in the 49th minute, Zian Fleming come on in the 64th minute, and Hannibal come on in the 64th minute. And I think all 3 of them subs really helped change the game. Obviously, Fleming came on and scored 4 minutes later. Hannibal was superb when he came on. He really upped the tempo for us in that final third. And I think Loren as well, he gets us into that final third by picking the ball up and dragging us up the pitch. So I wouldn't be against Hannibal starting against Watford. To be honest with you, buddy. But my midfield 3, and I think I've said it for a while now, should be Cullen, who I thought was poor today, to be fair. But Cullen, Loren, and Sarmiento if he's fit. But obviously, if he's not fit, then maybe it's time we actually see Fleming in the 10. But Sam, I'll come to you on this one. I know you mentioned you want to give Parker some credit for his subs. But what are your thoughts on them subs individually, mate?
Well, I think they all affected the game in some way, shape, or form. I think obviously Fleming with his goal. I mean, that's as good a goal as you'll see. And in fairness as well, you've got to go back to the conversations that I've had on here a few times of he's the marquee signing, and for me, he hasn't lived up to it so far. And for me, 1 goal doesn't change that. But that's a really good starting point. I mean, what a goal that is. And again, in a weird way as well, that shows that, that shows that that's kind of why he's the marquee signing, and that's why, because he's one of those players that in a game where very little is between the two sides, you need a moment of quality to change it, and he did come on and change the game for me. That goal just gave us a lease of life that we didn't have before. You know, we weren't really knocking on the door before that either. You know, we'd had a couple of half chances. You could tell that we were trying to build into the game, but we didn't have anything before that. So I thought that was brilliant from him, and hopefully it's a building block now to get his Burnley career, you know, to where we kind of expected him to be. Same goes for Josh Laurent as well. I mean, I've mentioned it multiple times, but for me, he is my favourite Burnley player at the moment. I just think every single time he's on a football pitch, he just changes the complexity of that midfield. Like, he just calms it down. Like Cullen, I love him, I really do, but I feel like this season he's looking more frantic, like he's trying to do everything at 100 miles an hour all the time. Like, I'm going to play the ball there, and then really quickly I'm going to sprint back over and show for feet, and then play a first time pass to the fullback, and then show for him again, and then get it. And it's just like, sometimes you just need to calm down. I'm not even, you know, there is elements of Brownell's game that isn't perfect, and I do think sometimes he can be a bit of a passenger when we're off the ball. But for me, I can't really give Brownell much stick this season, because I think he's been great. But I just think him, Josh Laurent being in that midfield is just so unbelievable. Like, like I say, he's just such a good system player for us as well. Like, I think he just fits our system perfectly. The winning the ball back, the not wanting to be the main guy in midfield, he just comes on, does his job, distributes to creative players, and gets us further up the pitch. I just think he's absolutely awesome at it, and easily my favourite Burnley player at the moment. And then, as you know, the Hannibal Medry fan TV will be very pleased to hear, but his role in that team today was to add energy into the game, was to press.
He
like
does
a
that though, doesn't he? He just adds so much energy.
100%. And what he helps us do is he helps us win the ball back, like high up the pitch, because he just doesn't stop running. And sometimes it's nice to have a player with an engine, but I've said so many times again on these podcasts, it's like there's players down in non-league and in the National League that have an engine and can run and run and run and run. But the difference with Hannibal is he runs with a purpose. He's always closing his man down. That's probably why he gets more yellow cards than anybody I've ever seen in my life, because he's always going 100 miles an hour at his defender. But that's what you need to do. If you're going to press, what's the point in having a half-ass press? You might as well just press a 100 mile an hour to try and get the ball back, like, and press as a team. And his energy today really, really helped change the complexity of the game. So going back to the start of all that and talking about all three of them, that again is on Scott Parker. Some of them are enforced changes.
His best midfield, does he? He doesn't know his best midfield at all.
No. But I also think that when and again, I feel like it has to be said, and it can't be forgotten, because I feel like the way that the transfer window ended kind of made us forget a little bit. But the bloke literally came in and had the entire squad ripped apart from him, and has now been told with an entirely new squad, the expectations are still the same, and fans' expectations stayed the same regardless of the scenario that had happened behind the scenes. What Parker's doing now is doing exactly what we gave Company 25 games to do last time we were in the Championship. Is we gave him 25 games to get a new team of players that had never played together before to tick, and that ended up working perfectly. This time round, it won't happen the same way, because the style of play is not as progressive, not as fair to say, and you know, we all think the same, but it's fair to say it's not as interesting as Vincent Kompany's style of play. That there is a lot more structure and systematic understanding between the players, not from an attacking context, or from more of a, this is how we set up and every player has the role and you have to do this when this player does that and all that type of stuff. But what Scott Parker's had to deal with as a manager, I don't think very many managers will have to go through, seeing £100 million worth of players coming into the squad or whatever, but then seeing £150 million worth of players going out. You have to look at it as one, you know, as part of a bigger picture. And I think what we're seeing now with Scott Parker is, okay, yeah, there is games where it doesn't work, but at the same time, this is also a Burnley team who have conceded 8 goals in so far in the season. Yes, not scoring enough, but he is slowly starting to see who his best players are and who the game changers are. And I think one of the biggest things and one of the biggest difference to a Vincent Kompany Burnley team is we now have a manager that isn't afraid to make the changes. If Koleosho's not working on the right, we'll move him to the left. If he's not working on the left, he drops out altogether. And we've got another player to go in who's going to have a go. And Hannibal's going to come in for a few games. And if he doesn't do what he needs to do, he's going to go out again for a few games.
Yeah.
You know, there is obviously a couple of situations like the Lar Foster situation up front. And, you know, there's a few defensive injuries. Hopefully Esteve's injury is not too bad. But for me, I just think, you know, Scott Parker's doing a really, really, really good job based on what happened in the summer. Because I do think we are quite quick to forget how bleak that looked 3 days before the end of the transfer window. So I think the job that he's doing to still have us in third place now and still making decisions that help us. Yeah, I mean, like today, for example, that win is on him because he made those changes in the moment, in the right areas, bringing the right players off for them. We didn't need Sarmiento in that game. As weird as that sounds, we didn't, because what Sarmiento brings is a lot of, I'm going to get the ball and I'm going to try and take it myself, or I'm going to try and, you know, as soon as you get me the ball, I'm playing a 1-2 with the view on shooting from 25 yards. And as creative as Sarmiento is and as brilliant as he is, and I do think he's an absolutely cracking player, he didn't suit us in that game. We needed to have that structure against them and try and beat them, you know, playing as a team and as a unit. Obviously, you know, we had a Fleming goal from 30 odd yards, but yeah, for me, a lot of that win today is on Scott Parker. I think he's been brilliant.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think for obviously I've backed Parker and I stand by the fact that I want to currently back him. But he was getting a lot of stick at half time today. That's why I kind of went a bit rogue on the Turfcast Twitter account and kind of like start not giving people stick, but sort of like biting back a little bit and sort of like saying like we're third and all this kind of stuff that you've just mentioned then really. But my arguments is for as much as I do agree, I feel like he made the subs today that changed the game. I do feel like the team selection was wrong as well. I've said it then, and Andrew, I'll come to you next on this because obviously it's been a while since you've had a chance. But I do feel like Scott Parker got it wrong today, and I don't feel like he knows his best midfield at the minute. His insistence on dropping Loren frustrates me. Not to name drop anybody, but I know there's people on Twitter that don't see Loren as a good player. But as I've already said, I don't need to go into it again. He doesn't need to be technically gifted to be able to drag us 30, 40 yards up the pitch. And as Sam said, that suits us perfectly. And if we are better with him on the pitch, then surely he should start every game, in my opinion, whether he's technically gifted or not. And then for me, obviously, going back to the earlier question about Hannibal, obviously he came off the bench and did very, very well and added that extra layer of intensity and energy. So my question to you, Andrew, then is what would your midfield three be? Because at the minute, Cullen's not having a great season, but he kind of feels undroppable. Brownhill's our leading goal scorer. Obviously, did it again today and did the business again today and compressed well, to be fair, can Brownhill. That's what Brownhill does offer. And he's good on the ball as well and scores goals. But then you've got Loren and Hannibal coming off the bench and doing very, very well. And in my opinion, Sarmiento, our most creative player. And then you've got Fleming, who could be in the 10. So it's a proper conundrum in this midfield, isn't it? And so who would you choose that midfield three, mate?
Yeah, to be honest, it feels weird saying this after how good he was last time we were in the Championship. But that midfield three today, I'd be dropping Cullen straight away. He'll have a game where he's absolutely outstanding, and then he'll have a game where he's crap like he did today. And
I think he's had like 2 good games this season, to be fair. As much as I love him, he's been poor this season.
He just, as strange as it sounds, like last season we were crying out for him, and last time we were at Championship, you're absolutely incredible. I think he needs putting, to the sideline for a bit. Loren, like I've said, he needs to start because he gets us up that pitch like no one else in our squad does. And he'd be first name on the team sheet for me every single week. Brownhill, I know a lot of people don't like him. I don't understand why a lot of people don't like him. Yeah, he goes missing in games sometimes, but he's still a really good Championship player. Okay, he might not be perfect in the Premier League. He might not have been able to do it for us in the Premier League, but he's shown this season, and he showed last time we were in the Championship, that he is a good Championship player. He's our top goal scorer. So, to answer Solent's question there, he does offer more than Cullen because he's our top goal scorer. He goes forward and he'll actually attack, and he'll actually take, all right, he'll have a shot from 25 yards out and it'll end up in Rose Head in cricket field end. But at least he'll take a shot when sometimes we're just pissing about with it outside the box. At least he'll take a shot. And then Sarmiento, because I just think he's absolutely brilliant, and I think he's just technically one of the best players we've got at the club as well. I'd love to somehow shoehorn Fleming in there. Like, I would love to see Fleming in the 10, but I honestly don't believe, despite the fact that he scored a hell of a goal today, I don't believe that he's shown anything for me that he should be starting for us yet.
Yeah,
like, yeah, he scored a hell of a goal today, but
sorry, I was just going to say Fleming gets a lot of stick, and I'll always defend him because he's just being played out of position, and I don't get this. This is one of my, I'm still backing Parker, but one of my main issues with Scott Parker is his square pegs in round holes thing. Stop playing Fleming as a striker. I understand we've got injuries, but it's shown time and time again it's not worked. All right, if he were watching now, he'd put in the comments. Obviously, he's not, but he'd put in the comments to say, "Well, it worked today. He scored a screamer," but he scored a screamer from back. Like, it wasn't all right. It might have been playing as a 9, but it was off a free kick and stuff. That's why I put that comment on screen there from New Name. Says, I personally like to apologise for Ian Fleming. I was unaware of your game. I don't understand how people were unaware of his game and thought he was dreadful. You see every single week on Twitter and Facebook people saying he's dreadful all the time. He played very good for Millwall. He's just not been played in his right position, and I do think that Scott Parker's got to take some responsibility for that.
The thing I have with Fleming, and like you said, it is hard to slate him because he's not really played in his position. Like, he has been played as a 9, and he's definitely not a 9. Like, we can all see that. But even the games that he has played up to this point, for me, his passings looked sloppy. His first touches looked sloppy. You know, there's other aspects of his game that, no matter where you're being played, if you're a right back and you're being played up front, you should still be able to pass the ball. You should still be able to make the run. And for me, he's made a lot of those mistakes. He's not the only player. He's not the only one. And like I say, I don't want to slate him because you have to give him credit for what he's done when he's not been played in position. And like I say, he scored a hell of a goal today. So it's hard to, slate a player when they've scored a 35-yard screamer. But he still gets the basics wrong for me quite a lot. So I'm still indifferent with him.
Yeah, fair enough. Fingers crossed he gets a chance in his natural position. Like I said, I don't get this square pegs in round holes thing, but we won't go into that because we've talked about him before on different shows and stuff. Evening, says Kieran Phillips. Evening, mate. You've missed all the Brownhill praise, so good job you joined late because he's the president of the Josh Brownhill Hate Club. There has been a poll running on Twitter. A poll. It says, are you happy with today's performance? 73% have said yes. I put that poll out there to play devil's advocate, thinking people would say no, but the majority of people have said yes. I've just ended it now, so if you missed it, tough titties, you've missed it. But yeah, I'm surprised at that. There was 55 votes and 72% of people said yes. Sam, I'll come back to you just on that question because I didn't go as far as asking you your midfield 3, did I? Who would be your 3 then? Because I agree with some of the comments. It's hard to drop Cullen when you know he is or can be the best player in that midfield 3 in the league in midfield, but he's been poor this season. And then you've got Hannibal and Loren coming on doing so well. You've got Sarmiento playing there and doing well at times. Obviously, some games don't suit him. For me, even if you don't play Sarmiento in his natural position, well, not natural position, but in my preferred position for him in the 10, you've got to have him on the pitch somewhere. So maybe stick him out wide and drop Jaden Ante for me because I thought he had a poor game again today. But yeah, sorry, I'm waffling and just giving you answers. What would be your midfield 3, mate, if you were going to choose it?
I mean, it is really hard. I mean, I think, you know, when you ask questions like that, I think you kind of understand Scott Parker's headache, really, because you know, Cullen, I agree. He hasn't performed to the level that, you know, we maybe expect from him consistently this season. But like Andrew says, like, he is easily our best DM. So he needs to be in the team, really. I mean, you know, there are certain games where I think he doesn't suit. But I think it changes based on the game, to be fair. I think if you're playing a low block, you actually are better having Cullen, because he can make a pass through the lines and he can get the ball out wide quite well. For me, the two players though that you have to have in that midfield now are Laurent and Brownhill. And I know people think it's so annoying having Brownhill in the 10 role, but you cannot argue that guy does not deserve to be in a Burnley shirt playing week in, week out. He's our top goal scorer this season. He constantly affects games. There's some games where he goes missing. We've all just had a conversation about how Josh Cullen goes missing. We've all just had a conversation about how Koleosho can go missing. But everybody wants these players on the pitch. So I don't understand why when it comes to Brownhill, people are like, well, his first name off a team sheet. He's the first name on it for the amount of goals that he gets from midfield, from the goals that he gets from out of like that goal today that he scored is outshadowed by a fantastic goal from Fleming. He has no right to score from that.
It's a good. I tweeted that. It's a good finish to bring it down and then finish it. It's a good finish.
He always scores them. He's always in the right place at the right time. He's been a fantastic captain for Burnley. He's done some absolutely unbelievable things for Burnley. So for me, it's Laurent, Cullen and Brownhill for now. I think there are players that are in contention to play. I think Sarmiento's done well when he's come into the 10 role, but I don't think he's a 10. I think he's more of a left midfielder, but he's not going to play over certain players. I think for me, the player that comes out from all of that is Jadon Anthony and try and bring Koleosho and Sarmiento.
I can't get on board with Jadon Anthony. I can't get on board with Jadon Anthony.
This is the thing. Like, I feel like I've said it for weeks now, and I just don't get what he brings. Like, I don't think he brings any real quality to the game. I think he has one good game in 6. I think he can't beat his man. He can't really dribble. So I don't really know what he brings. His set pieces are awful. Like, he hits people.
I don't think anybody in that team can take a good set.
No, I know, but he hits people's knees from. So for me, that midfield 3 would be that for now. And if Fleming can start to get up to speed and start to knock on the door to play that 10 role, but there is obviously a conversation for certain players can drop into a team at the wrong time. Like, and I feel like when it's come to Fleming, he's dropped into the team at the wrong time, because if we'd have had Foster fit and Fleming could have started to get some game time under his belt, he'd have been able to be played in that 10 role. He'd have come on as a sub, and we'd have seen a lot more from him in the 10 role. But because of the injuries that we've had, he's been forced into the striker role. And for me, we've ended up having a fantastic game. A few fantastic games from Sarmiento and a few fantastic games from Brownhill. So when it comes from that, and then also you factor in Hannibal's performance, you know, coming off the bench today, like, at what point now can you just turn around and go, well, everything that you've just done for the last 3 months, sack that off because Zion's going into the 10 role? Like, because then you've got 2 or 3 players that are sat there go, well, hang on a second, like, when you needed me, I'm there scoring goals from here, I'm distributing from there. Like, how come he's just all of a sudden ahead of us? Like, you know, we've seen it before with players like Hendrick. Like, he was in the team, he was in the team for so long in that centre midfield role, dropped out of the team, came back and played right midfield. Like, you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I think that's just what's happened with him. But yeah, for me, I think Brownhill, Laurent and Cullen is the best 3 right now. And I can see loads of people talking about the Brownhill situation in the chat. Like, you have your opinion, I have mine. It's fine. There's a reason why he's starting and scoring goals. So if he's not there today, we get a point. So you enjoy drawing, drop Brownhill.
Don't worry about Kieran. His bark's worse than his bark, mate. Trust me. He's a good lad deep down.
I'm just batting as well.
But yeah, and not Anthony. John Robertson have left that comment on screen because that's kind of where he went into that position, didn't he, for the last 20 minutes? And he actually did all right, to be fair. But the majority of Anthony's game today was poor. I'm struggling to see what he brings. For me, the midfield three would be Loren, Cullen, and I want to put Fleming in the 10, so I'm putting Fleming in the 10. But I want to keep Sarmiento on the pitch as well, so I'm putting him on the wings, dropping Anthony, Coley Oshaw on the other wing, and then having a striker in the striker position. I always feel like that helps. So that's what I do. There's been some comments. Murphy Brown, I think he's on his best behaviour today. He said, sit Brownhill down and ask him if he's going to renew. And if he doesn't, don't play him. I didn't see the last 3 words there, so I'm sorry about that. I want to put it on screen. But I think he makes a good point there, because in a way, I don't think he's going to renew his contract. I think it's pretty much common knowledge now that that Burnley have offered him a contract, and Connor Roberts, and neither of them have chosen to renew just yet. So it doesn't look like he's going to renew. But he makes a good point. But at the same time, if Parker thinks he's one of his best players, he's going to play him at the end of it, isn't he? So go on, Andrew.
At the same time as that, though, if 2 years ago we'd have turned around like the reception Barnes got today, if 2 years ago we'd have turned around to Ashley Barnes at this point in the season and said, if you're not re-signing your contract, you're not going to play the rest of the season, like, would any of us have found that acceptable? Whereas
he did quite well in that second half of the season as well. Well, to be fair, it were our decision we were letting him go. I guess people see that as a little bit different, but it's a good point.
But if you don't like him, why are people bothered if he doesn't sign a contract then? Like, surely you'd just be like, oh, brilliant, we'll play him all season. And then he goes at the end of the year, and then it's just not even a conversation. It's like you can't have 2 arguments. It's such a conflict. Oh, I don't like Brownhill, but please sign a new contract. It don't make any sense. Like,
we knew that Audebert wasn't going to be here. Like, we knew Audebert wasn't going to be here for the rest of the season. We knew Amdouni wasn't going to be here for the rest of the season. And yet, in those first games, we played those players because they were the best players we had in those positions. Josh Brownhill is one of the best players in that position in the Championship. Like, I know people will kick off and say, oh, no, he's not that good, he goes missing. He is one of the best players in that position in the Championship. He showed it last time he was in the Championship. He's showing it again this time in the Championship. If he wants to go at the end of this season, that's completely up to him. But at this moment in time, he is a Burnley player, and he is one of our best midfielders. You play him in that position. Like, if he goes in the summer, he goes in the summer. If he goes in January, he goes in January. At this moment in time, he's a Burnley player. We keep him. We play him. Like, it's brainless to think anything else. Sorry.
Fair enough. No, it's good. I like it, Andrew. Feisty. Non-G Darko says, we've got a lot of other options, but I think we'll miss Brownie when he's gone. Kyle Matthew Hurton says, if we're a club and fan base that wants promotion, surely we play the best players regardless of contract status. Would we rather stay down just to drop Brownhill out of principle? The president of the Brownhill Hate fan club says, Brownhill is another Jeff Hendrick, thinks he's a lot better than he actually is. If he leaves Burnley, I guarantee he will drift into the wilderness. I, for one, praying he doesn't sign a new deal. Get rid 2 backwards, sideways all the time. And then Murphy Brown says, desperately need a striker in Jan. I completely
You can't be that backwards and sideways if you're the top goal scorer of a team in 3rd place. I just don't get it. Like, how can you be backwards and sideways if you score goals? I just don't get it.
Fair point. Anyway, let's move on, because I do want to look ahead slightly. These are Burnley's upcoming fixtures. Obviously, up next, we've got Watford. I'll just quickly make that a little bit bigger on your screens, because I know some of you watch on TVs and stuff, big TVs in the front room, as somebody called Boxing actually has tweeted us. So there you go. Should be able to see it now. Up next is obviously Watford. That's on Saturday, the final home game before Christmas. Then we've got top of the table Sheffield United, first against 3rd. Obviously that could change by then. Then Middlesbrough, who are currently in 4th, 5th, 6th. They're doing pretty well as well. So we've got 7th top, whatever they are in the playoffs. Then another game against Stoke. We should win that one, to be fair. Then the Derby, who obviously they've won 6 games in a row. I will never, ever, 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 ever give them any credit whatsoever. What I will say is John Eustace is doing a good job there. And fingers crossed, Wolves take him from them. That's all I'll say. That's as much credit they're going to get off me. Then we've got Sunderland, a team that's currently in, what are they, 4th? We've just gone above them, haven't we? So yeah, some tough games coming up, but Andrew, I'll come to you first on this one. I agree with Sam earlier when he says that these sort of games suit us better and we tend to do better in these games. So I don't think these games are going to be as bad as some people think, but probably one of the games that we'll drop points in is that one. We'll probably drop points at home against Stoke and draw 0-0 after I've just said we should beat, because we should beat them, but whether we will have the quality to be able to break them down if they come and sit in a low block is a different matter. I know we've just beaten them at the Britannia, the Bet365 Stadium, whatever it's called now. But again, they weren't really sitting back. They did in the first half, but second half they came out a little bit because they were at home. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the upcoming fixtures, please, mate? Because it really, really is a time of the year that will completely define our season, won't it? And I know some people said that going into the Norwich game, but obviously the point still stands. It really, really will define our season. If we're 2nd or 3rd after the Sunderland game, then I think we stay 2nd or 3rd, and I think we're knocking the door throughout this whole season. If, as some people keep saying, we're going to fall out the playoffs, then I think playoffs is pretty much the best we can hope for.
Yeah, I think looking at that, there's 3 games that really stand out to me that actually not worry me, but are the 3 that I think will define the rest of the season. I think the Middlesbrough game away from home, I think that'll be a very difficult one. Obviously, them locked down the road because they were 1 point behind Burnley trophy again. And the Plymouth game, I think all the rest of them sort of not suit us, but I think they're all games where the opposition will be coming at us. So we'll be able to, there'll be a bit more space and we'll be able to attack a bit better. Whereas those 3 games, I honestly think they'll obviously, yeah, exactly, like we did.
Then we've got Leeds. Game. Completely forgot. And I've got Leeds straight after that.
Yeah. But I think those 3 games will be what define the season and where we'll end up. Because those 3 games are the ones where teams will sit back and defend. And as well, especially that Plymouth game, we need a new striker. We know we need a new striker. We should have him by then. And that should be hopefully the start of the run.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Solent does say we have won at Luton, Leeds and Norwich. Why worry about any of them? Let's not put Luton in that category, mate. They are god-awful this season. But yeah, fair point on Leeds and Norwich. I won't say I'm worried, to be fair, Solent. The Middlesbrough game will be a tough game. The Sheffield United game will be a tough game. But I do think there's maybe a couple of defeats in there. But I don't think, say if we get 2 defeats and a few wins out of it, it's not going to be the worst. The worst run of form. Sui says, have you seen the Championship away team? We're our best in the league by some margin, so not worried about away games. Yes, we did. I know you joined late, mate, but we did do that earlier in the show. Obviously, top of the Championship league.
We're 3rd in the league
table. Go on, Andrew.
We're 3rd in the league, and people are talking like we're in the bottom 3. So, to be top of the away league table and concerned about a couple of games, it's nothing. I'm not getting carried away.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with some of the comments. I feel like I said already, I feel like these games play into our hands. I think we'll get some decent results out there. I do think we'll still be knocking on the door at the end of that Leeds game in late January. I do think we'll still be there. And then we've got a run of games against lesser teams. I know that can end up being a struggle for us. Portsmouth away, Oxford at home, they'll definitely sit in deep. Hull at home, they'll definitely sit in deep. Preston away. Away teams very rarely sit in deep. I know Oxford did it, but then we've got Sheff Wednesday. And so we've got some very, very, very easier fixtures after that, but we need to get through these run of games. Sam, obviously, I've taken it off screen now. In fact, Sam, before I come to you, I've just had a message off Chris. Now, there was a comment earlier from Hannibal Medri Fans TV. He said, say hello to your colleague who last week said Hannibal was rubbish. Well, thank you to Andrew, who took a picture of that and put it into the WhatsApp chat. If you're still watching Hannibal Fans TV, Chris Wilson says, tell him from me that he got brought on the wing because he's not good enough to come on before a 500k signing from Stoke. I think he's just bantering, mate. I think he's just bantering. We'll see because he's tapping again. But anyway, you wanted a response, mate. So there it is. And colleagues different. That would incline that we all work together. This is just something we do as a side thing. But yes, Sam, the run of form over fixture, the fixtures over Christmas. Sorry, what do you think's that's going to do for our run of form? Do you think we're going to come out the end of it knocking on the door? Obviously, I know you live in Leeds and see a lot of it yourself over there and how good they are and the way that they're playing at the minute and how they're thinking. But do you think after we play them on the 27th of Jan, we'll still be in and around the top two?
I think there's a hope side of me a little bit more than a guarantee. I don't think there's a guarantee in this division this season, in my opinion, other than Sheffield United. I think Sheffield United look the most assured team in the division. I think us and Leeds look susceptible to a poor result. I mean, you know, they were one last throw of the dice away from, you know, coming away with no points against Preston the other day. Yeah. So it was only a sheer stroke of luck that gave them a point, that point that they're now ahead of us with. Yeah, I think the run of fixtures isn't great, in my opinion, just because it adds pressure to the next 5 games. You know, we have to play Middlesbrough, who are in the top 6. We have to play Leeds, who are obviously above us now. We've got to play them lot, who are actually playing some good football. I mean, team's still rubbish, but they are playing some all right football. But yeah, I just think that the Sheffield United one's a big one as well, because that, for me, will be the biggest barometer of where we are. If we can get a result against them, then I think that shows where we are. Whereas I think if we get turned over by them, I think it shows that we are hoping to get into the top 2, but if not, it's a playoff run. I think, you know, but even teams like Watford, like going to Watford's not easy. Like, so yeah, in fairness, we could have done with a couple of sporadic fixtures in there. You know, like maybe chuck a Portsmouth in the middle of some of them and things like that. But yeah, I think you know, if we can get 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss, or I think we can even afford to lose 2 out of those 5 difficult games. And I think when it comes to that Leeds game, I think there'll be more riding on it than there is now. I think right now we're in a position where we're kind of like, it is what it is. We play Leeds towards the end of January, and right now you can't even think that far ahead. But I think when it comes to it, I think there'll be quite a lot riding on that game. I think it'll be, you know, to either propel us into the top 2 and show that we are at the right end of the table, or it will propel them and show that we are the best of the rest, basically.
Interesting. Fingers crossed we can still be the best, but I'm not sure many fans will join me in that sentiment. Obviously, they'll want us to be the best, but I'm not sure many fans think we can be the best. I do agree, though. I do think Sheffield United at the minute are the team to beat. And let's not forget, they had a 2-point deduction as well at the start of the season. You know what? Credit to them, because they had a lot of people leaving, and they've signed some good players. Like
their recruitment was great.
They've recruited very well. Obviously, Cooper. He's a great goalkeeper. He's done very, very well. There's others in there as well, but credit to them, and I do think they are the team to beat. One thing I forgot to do last week, which I'll make sure I don't forget to do this week, because we've just ticked past the hour mark. So I will start looking to wrap it up in the next 10 minutes or so, because obviously it's a little bit later this week, and I've still not had my tea. I've got to get ready for work. I'm up for work at 5:30 in the morning. So we will start wrapping it up in around 10 minutes. But I forgot to do the man of the match shouts last week. So let's not forget to do it this week. And I did get a bit of stick when this stream had ended off Dan for forgetting to do it, because he even put his shirt on with the name of the player on the back, which he was pretty annoyed at me for. But Scott O'Sullivan says Trafford, purely because he kept us in the game. So, yeah, get your comments coming in. Let me know who you feel was the man of the match. Andrew, I'm going to come to you first on this one. But what I will say for all the Brownhill haters in the chat is that just looking on who scored earlier, Kieran, if you're still there, give me a wave if you are. Brownhill actually won the man of the match on who scored, but obviously I don't think many people would agree with that, to be fair, even though he got the goal. And I do feel like some of the criticism can be a little bit harsh towards Brownhill, but he wouldn't be my man of the match anyway. Andrew, who was your man of the match?
Trafford, 100%. I think he kept us in the game quite a lot in the first half. I don't know if it's like a triple save or a quadruple save or something that he made in the first half.
Punched it, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, if that were Emi Martinez, like his save yesterday, if that were him, people would be banging on about it for the next 3 weeks. So
that was a great save yesterday from Martinez, to be fair.
It were, to be fair. But, like, he got a lot of stick last season, did Trafford. He was outstanding today. 100% my man of the match.
Fair enough. I'll caveat that by saying I feel like the criticism he got last season were deserved. Not necessarily his fault, but he went too high too early, in my opinion. He wasn't a Premier League goalkeeper. I think over the course of the season that showed. He's a good Championship goalkeeper as it stands. Probably a very good, even great Championship goalkeeper as it stands. Will he play in the Premier League for a very long time as he gets older? Of course he will. Will he play for England? Of course he will. And I feel that this season he's kind of like found his level as where he's at now. But he was superb today. James, if you're watching, he's not. Feel free to unblock us on Instagram now as well, please, mate. Solent says Loren. I've already put Scott's on there. He says man of the match Trafford, but just put it back up there again. Simon Woodhouse says Trafford for me. Sui says Brownhill's drink bottle. I don't know if you've seen it, but obviously Ashley Barnes did the thing coming off the bench where he squeezed Brownhill's bottle. Absolute shithouse. Absolutely love him. Clark Blue 1882 says Loren. Murphy Brown says the time. No idea what that means. Kieran's in the chat. He's going to be fuming. Trafford says Claret Al. Hannibal Medri Fans TV says Trafford. Has to be Trafford, says Michael Sullivan. Trafford again, says Simon Harvey. Cullen. I don't know why he's put it in capital letters. I think he's in a mood because who scored will give it Brownhill. But Kieran Phillips says Cullen. He also did say, Sam, that your man of the match won't take too much working out. So I don't know what that means by that. I think that means he thinks you're going to give it Brownhill. I don't think you are. Just whether you were nodding along with Andrew. But who's your man of the match, please, mate?
I mean, of all the midfielders, I mean, I do like Brownhill, but I would have given it to Laurent. But he only played like 25 minutes, so you can't really give it to him. Trafford for me, yeah, I think he again is just showing, just like you said, that like he's definitely found his level for where he is in his development now. I think in the game today, he kept us in the game. That again, we talk about, Fleming's goal changed the complexion of the game. We could have gone in at half time 2 or 3 goals down and the game's out of sight, and you're chasing a lost cause. He gave us something to chase, and I think that's testament to his progression as a I think that's a testament to how he's reacted to the Premier League season and coming down under Vincent Kompany and being poorly managed, in my opinion, as a young goalkeeper. And he's really coming into his own this season, and he's really solidified himself as the Burnley #1. So yeah, for me, has to be Trafford. Really pleased.
Yeah, fair enough. I know you said you can't give it Loren because he only played, I think he played about 43 minutes or something in the end. I don't know exactly what it was because Sarmiento came off quite early, didn't he? But I'm going to give it Loren. Yeah, just after half time. I don't know exactly when it was. Not long after half time, but I'm going to give it Loren. I know a lot of people have said in the chat like Hannibal changed the game, and he did. He added that extra layer of intensity on a game that had already changed thanks to Loren, in my opinion. I know he's not the most technically gifted, and that's why some people on Twitter like to give him grief and don't see what he brings to the team because all they see is a player on the ball. But to see him drag us up the pitch 30, 40 yards, it helps so much having him in there. It really, really does. It helps so much. And to say that after 62 seconds, 63 seconds, whatever it was, we were 1-0 down after a poor corner. Just seen a comment here. Steve Parkinson says, Fleming, how could you score a goal that good and not get man of the match? He weren't on long enough, mate, to be honest with you. He says after giving Loren the man of the match, but he was on for a lot longer. But yeah, I feel like he offers us more. I don't understand why Parker doesn't play him more, starting more. For me, is our best midfield. Not best midfielder, but like one of the better midfielders that we've got. And I'd like to see him in the starting lineup a bit more. I do want, just before we start to wrap everything up, I do want to quickly mention something. There's a picture on your screen now. Obviously, some people have said earlier they don't know how bad Esteve's injury is. Sorry, Esteve. I got told off the other week for pronouncing it wrong. Apparently, it's Esteve, not Esteve. Yeah, he said, incredible performance from the team. Just a crutch on the thigh. I hope it will be okay for next Saturday up the Clarets. Obviously, he went off injured today, so he thinks that he will be okay. Fingers crossed he will. I'm not sure whether the medical team will agree with him, but he thinks he's going to be okay. So fingers crossed that means he will be okay, because he has been fantastic this season. But right, lads, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that any of you two quickly want to mention before we do wrap it up?
What was all the kickoff about at the end of the match?
Was there? I didn't. I'd be honest with you, mate. I did not see it.
They were a bit.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, there were a
anything.
bit of a scuffle with Hannibal, and I mean Hannibal will fight anything, won't he? But yeah, they were like a proper fight with Hannibal and some of their team, and yeah.
Oh, if he's fighting with their team, I'm not fussed. Fair enough. Let him have a go. Wind him up and let him run riot, mate. If he's fighting obviously with some of ours, then yeah, we'll have to have a discussion about that. But to be fair, Carl's mentioned it here. CJ seemed to get into it with the Norwich player. Yeah. I didn't notice that at all, if I'm honest with you, mate. I didn't notice it, so fair enough. Even Solon noticed it, to be fair. He said Parker had to get in there and calm it down. What I did see is Ashley Barnes and Scott Parker chatting at the end of the match, which was interesting to see. But we will wrap it up there. So thank you, everybody, for watching the stream. It's an absolute pleasure to have you all on this Sunday evening. The pre-game show will be back. Obviously, we're playing Norwich. Not Norwich, we've just played Norwich. We're playing Watford on Saturday. I've already spoken to a Watford fan. We'll be doing something probably Wednesday evening. So I'll be putting it out late Wednesday night for the members, and then Thursday evening probably, maybe even Thursday morning for everybody else. But yeah, as usual, if you've joined the stream late and you want to watch it back, then as soon as I press end, you can do so. It becomes a standalone video, whether you're watching it on YouTube or on Facebook. And of course, if you want to listen to it as a podcast, driving to work, school, college, or whatever in the morning, then you can do, because it will be available as a podcast again in the morning. Cheers, Murphy Brown. He says, awful show as always. Cheers, mate. Graham Jennings says, appreciate it, guys. Have a great week. Have a great week, mate. Simon Woodell says, cheers, chaps. Colin, he says, thanks, guys. Look forward to the next one. Cheers, mate. Nobody joins late. Somebody joined late 3 or 4 times today, Murphy. You cannot read, mate. You're still on Key Stage 1 reading you, pal. Hannibal Medri says, thank you, guys. Nice show, as always. But yes, thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And we will see you next time.